Okay. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for being here tonight on Thursday, another Mom's Night In with Modern Mia. My name is Tomi Akatunde. I'm the founder and editor-in-chief of Modern Mia, which is a platform that celebrates, supports, and empowers Black moms to, I don't know, live their best lives. We do that through content and community like we're doing right now. And tonight's focus is just like a mental health check-in, see how everyone's doing, holding up, and an opportunity to connect with each other in community and also with these two lovely ladies. I don't know how they are appearing on your screen, but Deetra is on my left and Brittany is on my right. So yeah, just to give you some information on these two ladies, Deetra Baker is a licensed marriage and family therapist and parenting consultant. She teaches busy moms how to practically manage parenting and the mental health of their family. Deetra is dually licensed in the states of Texas and California. She holds a Bachelor of Science degree in psychology from Spelman College and a master's degree in community counseling with a concentration in marriage and family therapy from Argosy University, Atlanta. Deetra has worked with children, teens, and families for over 10 years. As a parenting strategist and human behavior expert, Deetra is able to provide real solutions and practical tips for real life challenges. Hey, Deetra.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Of course, thanks for being here. And then, as I said on my right, I have Brittany Strozier. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
That's correct.
Okay, awesome. Brittany is owner of Grounded Hues Therapy and Wellness. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist in the District of Columbia in Georgia, a level 1 Reiki practitioner, a consultant, and a speaker. Brittany is a multipreneur, if all of that didn't ring true. She wears many hats, but they all tie back to her mission to support others in solidifying a life of happiness, health, and wholeness. Hey, Brittany.
Hi, thanks for having me on. Welcome, mamas.
Yeah, welcome everybody. So my first question is just, how are you guys doing? Like, how can we best serve you in your mental health needs in this moment? What's going on for you? And I'm gonna start with Laura, if you don't mind.
Sure. Wow. Okay.
It's a big question, I know.
Yeah, maybe if there was like a more specific question around mental health, that would help, because this I haven't had this kind of. I'm sorry.
What's going on with you?
Okay. Well, I'm in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
I have a 7-year-old, and I'm quarantining with my boyfriend. We were kind of breaking up, so that's a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But we and his roommate, who's also my friend.
Okay.
Yeah, I think one of the mental health, something I've been trying to speak to somebody about was I'm the only parent in this house, and that's difficult. The two other people I'm here with are teachers and work with children. They have an understanding. It's not the same. And I don't, in general, outside of quarantine, I don't have that many friends with kids. Mm-hmm. So as we know, the quarantine is amplifying a lot of issues. And that's one of them, is just kind of feeling judged and sort of isolated in that, just trying to have people understand. I try to give this analogy where it's I don't know what it's like to be, I'm a self-identified woman. I don't know what it's like to be a man. I can educate myself, do that kind of work, but ultimately, you are the expert at, talking to a man, you are the expert at that experience. And I'm not going to say to you, no, I know how to do this better. If you would just try this. I think people can have an opinion, etc. But yeah, it's tough. That just mentally it feels isolating.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing, Laura.
Yeah, Laura, I was gonna say too, and I know we're waiting to grab everybody's questions, but Laura, I like the artwork behind you. I'm not sure if your 7-year-old did that, but it's very cute. And okay, sorry, Tommy, I just wanted to ask.
No, you're fine. This is super informal. Kristen, how are you doing? And are there any mental health issues that are of interest to you that you want to talk about during this call.
Sure. Am I the only Kristen? Let me check. There's usually more than
Oh,
one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Geez. I'm doing better than I was towards the beginning of quarantine. I'd like to start there.
Yeah. And I want to celebrate you for that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still struggling a lot. So I'm in Chicago, and I have a 2-year-old, and I'm about 12 weeks pregnant with our second.
Congrats.
So thank you. So doing quarantine through the first trimester has been way more than I thought. I kind of forget like how hard the first trimester is, but it's been really, really hard because also our daycare is closed here back in March, and my husband and I both work full-time remotely. So it's a blessing to work full-time and remotely, but it's also impossible to have full-time childcare and to have a full-time job and expectations of that. So I think on the mental health side, it's been completely just wrestling with what those identities are and how to give myself the permission and the grace to not be perfect at all of it, to be there for my son and be patient with him. Hi. No, I don't see it. Sorry, this is
Hi.
Hi. He's supposed to be in bed right now, but I guess I'm talking.
Oh, that face. Oh, he's
I
such
know.
a
He's like,
what am I looking at?
All right, you want to go with Daddy? Bye, Susie. So yeah, I'll stop there. I mean, like I said, I'm better than I was in the beginning. It's still really hard. I'm still really nauseated and achy and tired. Here, and I'm still trying to balance full-time job. So here, that's me.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to share how they're doing and what they hope to talk about?
I guess me.
Oh, hey.
Hello. It's been tough. I think someone else said like they're the only parent in the household, and I'm kind of dealing with that right now too. And it's really tough with them. With my parents I live with, they're working full time, so they're in and out of the house, making sure things are safe, keeping my child away, or also just keeping things organized. And then being home all the time, it just brings extra stress somehow, but then it's understandable. And, the children become more attached, which isn't bad, but for like my health, it's like, I just need a few moments, even right now, I had to turn on and off video and just explain I need time. Like we have better days now, but I'm just tired. And, even with this meeting, I'd probably only be able to make 30 to 45 minutes, but I was like, I need just to hear conversations with other moms, other women, like it's just needed. And not many friends, like I have friends, but they're not mom friends. And especially being in New York City, I used to be a dancer. I'm still getting back into that, which I've also been trying to find time in that, and photography. And a lot of it is more like people finding work, and industry is more of making a name for yourself. So once you become a mom, you feel even more isolated. And that's what I've been battling, during this time.
Thank you for sharing, lady. And this will be recorded, so you'll be able to watch later. But we'll get to you and Laura's questions about being the only parent and managing that, like as soon as we jump into the conversation. I feel like that's an important piece. Does anyone else want to share?
Well, I wanted to jump in quickly, and I just wanted to tell you thank you for checking in and making that time today. I'm sure it was hard, but it's a step in the right direction in terms of trying to give yourself a minute and space. So welcome, and we're happy you made it.
Can I ask you your name? Because I see it says Galaxy S7.
Oh, Maria J. Hackett. Sorry.
Maria. Okay. No, I wanted. Okay, Maria. Okay. Thank you, Maria.
Yes. No problem.
Anyone else, or we can jump right in? Okay. Let's jump right in then.
Hi, this is Nana.
Oh, hey, Nana.
Hello. I'm sorry, my dog is loud, so excuse the barking with him. I have a a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old, and it's gotten a little better. Coming here on Thursdays has been helping. Just like Maria said, I'm exhausted, but I'm trying to find ways to be more productive. Before this whole corona thing happened, I was a task lister. I always had like wiped out like what I need to do for the day. So I've gotten back to that. So that's kind of helped, and I feel kind of productive when I can cross things out. So I'm trying to do more of that. Before corona happened, I was laid off, so I need to like resume like job searching and networking. So I've been trying to join virtual networking stuff that they have online, and also going to like online digital conferences, just to like massage that brain of mine, because I haven't had that type of industry talk and be since January. So it's getting better. Homeschooling as a kindergarten is tough, but we're finding creative ways to get her to do the work that's assigned for her. Yeah, so I'm just trying to find ways to manage all the stress of homeschooling a 6-year-old who gets distracted by the 2-year-old who's still breastfeeding and is being very clingy and wants to boob 24/7. Yeah, it's just trying to and trying to wean off the 2-year-old and eventually potty train her. Yeah, it's just a lot of things to do, but just trying not to overwhelm myself.
Thank you, Nana, so much. So I'm hearing some common themes in a lot of the shares. So Deetra, Brittany, how can one manage these feelings of isolation that socially distancing and isolating inevitably brings up? What are some strategies to navigate that and to not feel so isolated?
I will say, well, Brittany, you want to go or?
Oh, go ahead. I'll chime in.
Okay. I would just say as far as like just now is probably not the best time to be making new friends in person. Just depends on your comfort level as far as like, I know states are starting to open back up and everything like that, but people are a little weary on whether or not, they should be getting together or not, especially moms, the safety of their children. And so something that I've been doing a lot lately is being intentional about things like this, with the Moms Night In and meeting ladies here and then connecting with them on social. A lot of times my husband laughs at me, but and this is probably weird, but I met Brittany this way and Tommy this way. But I reach out to people on social, and don't think I'm weird. Don't judge me.
No one's judging you.
But a friend for life.
I told Brittany, I'm like, I'm dragging you wherever I go, because we just connected, and I usually I look for genuine people that I feel connected to in different ways. And sometimes I just create my own little community. And so don't be afraid to use social media for what it's made for. I think social media started out as a great place where people can network and experience relationships with other people that are not necessarily next door to you. And it's gotten into other things, of course, but use it for what it's made for. Social media, there's a lot of groups like Modern Mia is having. There's a lot of groups that are out there that if you look for things that are kind of what you're interested in, that you might be able to find some other women to connect with.
I completely agree with what Deetra said. Now is the time people are trying to figure out ways to stay connected. And so I feel like now more than ever, there are so many opportunities for us to connect socially. And so the advantage you have with the virtual atmosphere is you get to set your own boundaries with how you want to work it, how often you want to do it, how long you want to stay in, whether or not you want to connect even further with someone else. So there are some advantages right now because of social distancing and the increased number of opportunities we have to connect. And so I would say build a virtual tribe, in hopes that maybe you can take it beyond when things clear up and it's safer to meet socially. But connecting in spaces like this, like Deetra said, various Facebook groups, just be present. Even if you don't say much, feel the vibe. And if you feel like you are connecting with someone, send them a message and just kind of go from there. I think when we get older, sometimes we forget the basic skills of making friends. And it can start simple with a simple comment, hey girl, I love what you said, or hey girl, you look real cute. And then it just goes from there. We are mothers, so there's always something to talk about there. So, keep it simple. You don't have to think too hard about it, but you do have to be willing to put yourself out there. But you have a little bit protection because you are behind a computer, but just take full advantage of a lot of the spaces that people are trying to cultivate to keep connection going.
Yeah. And my offer for that, I dropped a link in the chat of support groups for Black moms. That's on abrownmamas.com. And then also there is a app called Peanut, Peanut, and it's basically a social network app for moms. And you can drill down into location, and I follow the one in Harlem just because I'm like interested in what Black moms in Harlem are thinking about and talking about. But it crosses the gamut. I'm also on a Trying to Conceive board on Peanut. So yeah, it's a really good app that I would recommend. And then something else I was thinking,
No, I was just gonna say, I love the fact that you're like the Angie's List for Black moms. Like, I can go into Madam Mia and type in anything, and like Tommy has like a blog post for everything.
Oh,
so you should drop a link in there. I'm serious, guys. If y'all got anything that comes to your mind, if you put it in her search, you will find an article or something about it.
Thank you.
Put the link in there.
Well, that just made my evening.
Seriously.
But yeah, I was also going to say, like, so I'm a mom in some ways, but I'm not a mom to kids yet. And you guys can like shout me down if this is incorrect, but I also wonder if there's an opportunity to ask for the support you need from like your friends who don't have kids. Because I think the only reason I'm so empathetic is because of this work I've been doing since I was like 25. So when my friends have kids, I'm like, what do you need? Like I'm like showing up in a way. But I think most people are just like afraid of asking the wrong questions, or like assuming that you got it or you don't have time for them anymore because you're a mom. And that leads to this like distance in the people that, you feel, well, they don't get it because they don't have kids. But it could be an opportunity to draw those people in closer to you by saying like, hey, let me just like be super vulnerable and transparent with you. And like, I feel really isolated right now and I don't know what to do. Or like, can we talk? Can we like schedule a time to like connect once a week? Or, will you be more open to me texting? And just giving that opportunity for someone to show up for you. And you can show up for them too, because they might be in a bad way as well. So that's my offer.
Aunties are the backbone of motherhood. Yes. And I'm happy that in the culture today, they're getting the appreciation and acknowledgement that they deserve. So that friend that said, whenever you need me, or I'm auntie this, I'm auntie that, hit her up. But again, it's about being vulnerable, being willing to say, I need help. And I know that can be a challenge for a lot of moms because we're supposed to have it all together.
Can we talk about that mom guilt and that shame that comes with feeling like, oh, I'm supposed to have everything together and I don't? What are some ways to manage those feelings and keep it from, a place where you're spiraling and feeling just like really shitty?
You want to head this one, Britt?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take the lead on this. Thanks. Mom guilt is real. And the first step that I would recommend is just acknowledging and working to be okay with things not being okay. I think what leaves us is this belief that it all has to be in order, things have to be working right, and when they aren't, something is wrong. And so it's unhealthy to think that you're going to be on and that you're going to be this perfect mom every moment of the day. And so, with that belief, if something goes wrong, you get derailed from being on as a mom, then now you're in distress for a number of different reasons, whether it's the thoughts that you think about yourself, i.e., mom guilt, the things that you do, avoidant behaviors, procrastination now, because you don't want to feel like you're failing at some point. But just having the self compassion that I'm doing the best that I can. And I'm okay with not being perfect. So some type of mantra that you can tell yourself as a reminder that you are doing the best that you can. You don't have to be perfect. And if your child is breathing, smiling, loving on you, you have done your job today.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And I was going to add to just, I think the pressure of being on all the time kind of helps to fuel that mom guilt. And so giving yourself space to not be on is very important. And I think that a lot of times especially now with kids home all day, and you're having to work and you're having to homeschool, and there's just this pressure to always be on. And so I would just suggest too, like, you go over your routine. Well, number one is to have a routine for your house, to create some type of schedule, whether it's for all day or first half of the day or second half of the day, whatever it is, wherever you start is great. Just start somewhere with creating a schedule. And then also within that schedule, including some time to be off. My kids have a quiet time, all three of them. I'm a mommy of three. And all three of them have a quiet time every day from 1:30 to 3:30. And people are like, you get your kids to be quiet for 2 hours? Yes, because I need to be off. I need to turn off. I need to shut down. I need to not be on. And so that sometimes helps me to take a step back and not take on that pressure of, I got to be doing this all day. Because no one can run all day, at full speed at 100%. So giving yourself that time and that space to be off, I think it helps with decreasing the mom guilt too.
Yeah. And how do you do that when you have kids who are younger, who you can't say like, hey, go to your room, or like, this is our designated time for everyone to like leave me alone? How do you manage that need for space?
That's a good
And
question.
oh yeah, I wanted to add on, if you could also like keep in mind like people who are partnered, but also people who are single.
Yeah. You want to go, Britt, or you want?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I have a 3-year-old, and I do my best, make my best attempt for quiet time every day because I need to be off, and I highlight the word best attempt. But with her, I find some sort of activity because it's in the afternoon. She's not taking a nap, she's not resting, she's on 10. And so I have found the activities like puzzles. She has a really strong interest in puzzles. So I'll just give her things that'll kind of buy the time, things that don't cause a lot of ruckus. So she's not playing with her 12-year-old brother and they're not running around the house making noise. He's in his room reading, or doing some type of quiet activity. And with her, it's just finding some type of activity that will not cause a whole lot of commotion, not get her too excited, but then not put her in a space where she's super bored and now she's searching for attention because she doesn't have anything to do. So that's what I do.
And just to piggyback off of that, for me, I have I guess 22-month-old. So she'll be 2 in July. And then I have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old. And so for me, I kind of start early with getting them on schedules. And so at 1:30, everyone kind of has their roles. And this has come with a lot of training, a lot of pre-teaching. But so all three of them know what they need to do at 1:30. At 1:30, my 6-year-old daughter actually helps me to get the baby down in bed because they share the same room. And so my 6-year-old, because she's working on reading, she reads to the baby, and she actually helps the baby get into her crib because she knows how to do that. But so she puts her in the crib and she reads to her. And then my 6-year-old and my 8-year-old have their quiet time assignments, and we've actually, because it's 2 hours, I sat down with both of them. The 6-year-old, she came up with 2 hours, what she was going to do every 30 minutes. And then he came up with his. And so she scheduled in, I'm going to have quiet time and sit and just rest, and not do anything for 30 minutes first. And then I'm going to get up and do spelling, and then I'm going to do reading. And so just for me, I've worked a lot with my kids on incorporating them into the schedule, having them help out when there's help that's needed, but then also having them have an input in our schedule and what they want to do during that time. And so with a lot of practice and a lot of trial and error, that's kind of what we do every day. And we try to be very consistent with it so that they don't get off track and, not take it seriously. So.
Yeah. So what if you have a kid who's like 1 or under, like someone who is like really relying on you, like if you're breastfeeding, like if you just have a 1-year-old who doesn't isn't like really able to do activities in that same way, in that same regimented way, how do you go about that?
Well, at 18 months is when I stopped nursing the baby, the littlest one. And honestly, I think when it comes to having baby, like 1-year-old and under, you have to kind of work at their schedule. And so if they're taking a nap at 11 instead of 1, you know what I mean? You have to kind of fit it in where they're at, meet them where they're at. And so starting out, it was a lot of figuring out when, and basically the 1:30 actually started because that's when the baby started taking her second nap. And so when she weaned off of the first nap at 11, the 1:31 stuck. But it's just meeting them where they're at and trying to do what you can do within that time frame, but also shaping that, taking whatever moment that they're giving you, the 1-year-old or younger, like whenever, if you notice there's a pattern that they always get tired at this time or they're always wide awake at this time, scheduling things around that, for me, that was helpful. But I think also what I like to remind moms, like, your children best. So everyone can give you tools. Everyone can tell you what they think. And this, Laura, like you were saying, like, I'm the mom, like you're not a mother, and even for mothers who give advice to other mothers, like, your children best. And so the comparison trap is so real. And a lot of times we get stuck in trying to do things the way that every other mom does it. But our kids are so unique. You guys all know this, right? Every child is different. So my 8-year-old is a whole lot different from my 6-year-old. And my baby, the almost 2-year-old, is a whole lot different from both of them. I mean, she's Tasmanian. But, like, you're their parent and you're their parent for a reason and you know them best. And so whether you go and get help from a therapist or you talking to friends, whatever it is, you know your child best. And so knowing that, like, you were made their parent for a reason, you're their mother for a reason, you know them. And so doing what works best for you and them, because just like they're all different, we're all different. And so I would say just also not getting in that comparison trap too, because that also helps with the mom guilt. And then we also, feel like, okay, well, this person does it this way, like figuring out what works for you and just paying attention to what you need and what your child needs.
Yeah. Brittany, do you have any suggestions for activities or other ways moms can claim time for themselves when they have kids under 1?
Well, the biggest recommendation I have is what Deisha said. You kind of have to go with the baby. You can't tell them much, try telling an 18-month-old, let's take a nap. You're going to take a nap at 1:00 and see how well that goes. So yeah, that one is really about like letting go of control, but being observant about patterns. If you can recognize some patterns, then really try to sneak it in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I dropped some, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I dropped some links in the chat from 2 articles that were on Modern Mia. Our last event last week was about how moms can reclaim space and time for themselves. And so there was a lot of conversation around waking up early before the rest of your family is up, so you can carve that time for yourself and
That's
use yourself,
golden.
yeah, your self-care tools. The person who said that was mom coach Tori Jones, and she wakes up at 5 a.m. Every morning basically to make time for herself and her needs. And then I also put in a link for a news story that just went up today with tips for moms who have always worked and stayed at home, to give advice for people where this is like new to them, to just be like, I don't know. I just figured like stay-at-home moms are GOAT at this. Like, this is nothing new. So like ask for
But
their,
It's different.
yeah,
it's different. It's still different. Because I will say, I homeschooled before COVID. I've been homeschooling. My son is 8, almost 9. So since kindergarten for him, and he's 3rd grade. So I've been homeschooling before COVID and working. So I teach VIP Kid. I teach children in China. And so I get up, my classes start at 5 a.m. So I get up at 4 a.m. so I could have my mommy time. But I teach, so I do that. And then I also do therapy sessions right now and virtually. So I've been working and teaching and homeschooling, but this is different. This is totally different. And so I will say, even for the stay at home, work at home mom, like this still brings about its own challenges, because where we used to have the outlet of going to the YMCA because they have childcare, and I could do some work and work out, or where the kids used to go to art lessons and, all kinds of things that are like basketball practice. I mean, that stuff is not there anymore. And so your kids want you to play with them. They want you to do all of the things with them, like, feed them and play with them and do all of the things that you used to have, like different people to help you with those things, to outsource those things. And so now you are the source, and there is there isn't that much outsourcing that can be done right now. And so one of the things too I was going to suggest is, you would be amazed how 20 minutes, how long 20 minutes will last you. And I say 20 minutes, when I take pockets, 20 minutes of time with my children, that lasts them for a couple hours. And then they want 20 minutes again. But if I give them those breaks, and it gives me a break from my computer, or it gives me a break from my phone, but those 20-minute increments, I mean, it doesn't have to be exactly 20 minutes, but giving them that undivided attention for a period of time, it doesn't have to be long at all, but taking that time and then going back to what you need to do, that has been so helpful for me during this season when I haven't had the other things going on. When I take them outside and go for a walk in 20 minutes, I come back in, they're able to do something to occupy themselves for about an hour or so, to where then I can go back and work. So just being flexible too, that has really helped for me during this season, because it's different. It's different.
Yeah. One of the things that one of the moms I asked, one of the things she said was that it's important to learn your kids' love languages and learning styles during this time, so that you can like meet them where they are. Can you talk a little bit more about like different children learning and love languages, and how you can use that to help with, I hate saying managing, but like managing, their expectations and your resources.
Yeah. You want to talk, Britt? I feel like I've been talking.
I'm going to defer child stuff.
Right. Okay. Does everyone know what love languages are? I mean, is everyone familiar with the 5 love languages? Yeah. Okay.
We should go over them just for those who don't. Yeah.
Okay. So I have the book somewhere. I don't know, but I can't think of his name. Who did the 5 love languages? What's his name? Okay. Look, if you Google
Gary Chapman.
Thank you. If you Google 5 love languages, it'll come up, because he's
right
it's
there.
him. It's right. And so there are 5 love languages, and they say they are giving gifts, gift giving, quality time, physical touch, Look at me, I'm on top of my head.
Words of
Physical touch, giving
affirmation,
gifts. Words of affirmation. Did I miss one?
acts of service.
That's it. That was it.
Okay.
Words of affirmation and acts of service. So those are the 5 love languages. And I say, so yes, you need to learn your child's learning style and love language, but also just learning your child and seeing their heart. Because a lot of times we can see the physical things like, this is their learning style. They're auditory learner, or they're visual learner, because you can physically see that. But the heart is the things that you can't see. And so I would say even go a little deeper and learn their heart. And it's not necessarily what they say or how they do something, but it's also what they're not saying, what they're not doing, that really matters, because that's where you're gonna find like, okay, and I say learn your children, but also be a student. I say be a student of your child, but be a student of your spouse too, because you want to learn the in between stuff. Like, what are they not saying? And so meeting them where they're at. But back to the 5 love languages, there's a test that you can do that your child can take too on his website, where they can answer some questions. And I've had my children do this. They ask you the questions to identify their love language if you're not able to identify it already. A lot of times as moms, we kind of know our kid does really well when they receive words of encouragement, words of affirmation. Like if you tell your child, great job, and they're like, they light up because they like that encouragement, that they love words of affirmation. If your child needs hugs more than some children. I have one of my daughters, she is 9. Do what I want to do. I don't need you to hug, to coddle me, And so just learning your children and what works for them. But then it also helps you with discipline, I would say too, because you want your child to feel loved. You want your child to know that you love them even when you're disciplining them. And so if your child's love language is words of affirmation, and you are saying you did wrong, and the words that you're using are crushing their spirits, you don't want to do that. You don't want to use their love language against them. And so when you know what their love language is, it helps you to discipline them in a way that is not unloving, that they don't feel that it's unloving. So I would say, identifying what their love language is great, because it definitely helps you to see, like, if your child's love language is quality time. All 3 of my kids, it's quality time, and they suck up your time. I mean, they are constantly like, mommy, and I'm like, do all 3 of you guys have to have the same love language? But it is, and they will say it. They love family. They love family, and so but at the same time, they love friends. And so when I can put them on a Zoom call with their cousins or with their friends, I'm doing it. And for them, it's still quality time, And so when you are able to identify those things, then it can help you too with, okay, what can I do with my child right now while I need to get this done? And it doesn't have to be video games. It doesn't have to be electronics. It could be just, even if you have multiples, getting them to play something together and them showing their love language to each other. If it is, my mother-in-law, she will stay on the phone with my kids for hours, and they love it because it's quality time. And so sometimes my husband uses that as a babysitter, and I used to hate it, but now I'm like, whatever works, So, I mean, knowing what their love language is, and then fitting that into what you need to get done and how you need to do it. And then, like I said, with discipline too, it helps you to know, like, if my child's love language is physical touch, and I know spankings are that's a physical touch, then imagine how your child is feeling after they have received a spanking, And so just that it helps to know that, because if they're receiving love in that way, then when you don't do that, or you're not feeding that love because they've gotten in trouble, then they're feeling a depletion of love too. So.
And I would add, just remember that just with adult love languages, kids can have more than one.
Yes.
my observation of this is that they tend to kind of work together. So like words of affirmation, quality time tend to go hand in hand versus quality time and acts of service. They could be both, but just recognize if they're more than one. And that gives you a little more room to do things to cater to their love language, because you aren't just focusing on one particular one. So if you take the quiz, one may come up, but there may be a second one that's pretty close, and you also want to pay attention to that second love language as well.
Yeah, I think it gives you multiple, like it'll tell you like a 3 or 2, like it'll tell you. So yeah, those they're still all very relevant. I mean, just because one is on top, it doesn't mean the others are not. So I think practicing all of them too is really good, because just like with learners, so if you have a learner that's more visual, or with identifying their learning styles, because I know Tommy mentioned that too, and I want to go back to that. But when you identify their learning style, but just because they're one way right now, sometimes as they get older that changes, and so I tend to use, like for me, because I homeschool, I tend to use curriculum that are geared towards all 3 learning styles, so auditory, visual, and tactile. So like, for example, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Math UC, but that's the first thing that comes to mind, because Math UC uses written. So they say, speak it. So you say the math problem, then you write it out, and then you build it. So they have you build it with these little blocks. And it really works for both all 3. Well, the little one's not doing math. She more so likes to throw the blocks, but whatever. But my son, he likes to build. So he's building the math problems, which is helpful for him. My daughter, she's more visual. So, auditory. So they have the lessons where she can listen to the lesson. So even finding ways that you can give them things in their daily work that will fit their learning style, and explore new learning styles too.
Oh, I love that. I thought it was like Matthew, like the name Matthew.
Oh,
And last name C, and I was
math
like,
UC.
Matthew C. I figured out, dropped it in the chat. Does anyone have any questions for them? Like, definitely feel free if you have like a personal ask to raise your hand, or, oh, hey, Kristen, all you.
I can get myself off mute. So I was going to ask about the transition for moms who, like, so I was working full-time, I still was in daycare full-time before COVID. And so our quality time, like our time together, is typically like I'm fully present. And I love that about our family time outside of our working time. We were always very much concentrated on being fully present with one another, not on phones necessarily, not, doing a lot of stuff. But with COVID, it switches to them being like, I've never seen mom, working. Like he's never seen me disengage from him like that. And so, you're talking about like giving the quality time and stuff, and he's definitely a physical touch and a quality time kind of 2-year-old. So we cuddle on the couch, and I can spend, an hour or 2 in the morning with him cuddle on the couch before my like working kind of starts. But it's like hardly enough, because we haven't really transitioned into that now, this new expectation, this new world of mommy's kind of work. And I guess I feel like it's probably not as easy. Maybe it just really is hard to do that transition, but I haven't thought of like the clearer boundaries, or maybe how to explain it to him, or just, the expectations for myself to do that kind of thing. So did that make any sense?
It did. It did. You mentioned some key words there, boundaries. And I know that can be a strong word for a 2-year-old, but I'm having the same issue. My daughter has completely transitioned. She started out with being a daddy's girl, but since we've been at home, she's been all about mama. And that was an adjustment for me, because she was always underneath her dad. And so now, like, she just cannot get enough of me. And I love it. But, sometimes I need my space, and sometimes I have to work. And so what I've started doing was I got her a chair. She has her own little child's chair, but it can be any chair. And I sit it next to me. And so sometimes I just have to redirect her. She wants to get in mommy's lap. Every once in a while, I'll let her do it. But like if I'm on a phone call, and even if I'm not, just reminding her, hey, sit in your chair for just a little bit. And then when mommy's done, mommy can play with you. So just doing little spurts of time, especially if it's not something you normally do. You can put them next to you. You can put them in a room, whatever proximity you feel is best. I'll leave that to your judgment and comfort as a mama. But start with maybe 30 minutes. Sit them in a chair and say, hey, mommy's going to work, and just redirect him, lovingly redirect him anytime he gets out of that chair to just sit down. And when you're done, of course, you want to praise and reward him. Thank you for waiting. Thank you for being so patient, and just letting him know that he did a good job by waiting.
That's good. And I want to piggyback off of Brittany, because I think what I'm picking up off of what she said is like training, teaching. Teaching them is going to be very key, because they don't, just like you said, it's new. And so teaching him what that looks like and how it should look and how you want it to look, and just shaping it and praising the approximation of what you want, and taking the little wins and praising those. For me, I have a screamer. My almost 2-year-old, she screams. She screams, and when we get on the phone is when she likes to scream most. And it's been a lot of teaching her self-control, because she will scream, and like she wants what she wants. And like Brittany was saying, I will be on my computer and she comes and straddles my leg and sits right in front of the computer. And when I'm on the phone, she wants to say happy birthday, because she thinks that you only call people to say happy birthday. And so she takes any opportunity to crush what I'm doing. And that's just what she does, because she loves attention. But we're having to teach her how to get attention positively versus screaming and doing all the negative stuff to get our attention. But like Brittany said, it's teaching her, like, you sit here and you have your little play computer, and I have my computer, and let's do work together. Now, sometimes she doesn't want her play computer because she wants a real computer, because that's just this child. But it's teaching her and setting those boundaries, like Brittany said, setting those boundaries and letting her know this is the expectation, and we're going to practice this. And we're going to even practice it when it's not during the workday. So even, after dinner, we're going to sit down and we practice. Like I set the timer on my phone. We're going to sit for, 20 minutes or whatever. And I give her coloring books, whatever, and we sit and if she gets up, we start the time over. And sometimes it doesn't work because she's tired, and it's like, okay, fine. But she knows that we're practicing, and she's gotten a lot better. I mean, even with the screaming, I do self-control. And so I tell her, blow out the candles. Before, when we first started, she was like, I'm not blowing out no candles. I'm not doing that, because that's this child. She's just my hard child. And so she's like, I'm not going to blow out the candles. I'm going to scream. But now when I hold my 3 fingers up, she knows what that means. And she's taking that self-control and breathing. Mm-hmm. And so it's all teaching. It's teaching him what your expectations are, and also giving grace when he doesn't do it exactly how you want it to be done, and just knowing that more teaching needs to be done, and that's okay, because it takes time. It takes time for even adults to learn, so it just takes time.
That's awesome. That was all really, really great advice. And yes, Brittany, I am just dropping links.
Stuff on the chat,
Well, we also had a mom's night in about mindful parenting with Malia, who's on the call and amazing, and Brandy. And we talked about just like mindful parenting techniques, and how to like parent from a place of regulation, and how to do your own self-regulation so that you can parent to regulate your kids. So I just put that link in the chat.
And you know what, Tommy, Brandy, what's Brandy's?
My Motherhood Magic.
My Motherhood Magic.
Yeah.
Brandy does a great job. I don't know if y'all follow her, but she does a great job of just demonstrating ways to keep your kids learning, but busy too. Like using different ways, for kids, it's not just about coloring. Like there's different blocks and stuff that you can use. There's all kinds of puzzles and all kinds of stuff. And I think Brandy does a really good job of showing different things that you could do with younger kids too.
Yeah, she's awesome. And
yeah, she is.
There's a article in the Wings that I'm working on about like sensory play.
Sensory
And
play.
yeah, her advice on that. So follow Modern Mia for that article to come. So when we were talking earlier about just like making time to learn your kids' love language, you also mentioned learning your partner's love language. So I thought that would be like a really cool segue into relationships. Like, bruh, I just had to stop because I was like, yeah, this has been, Laura, when you said earlier that you were like kind of in a weird in-between space with your boyfriend, like my husband and I were just starting to have like very honest conversations about where our relationship was going. And I was like, I need to get out of the house more. I need to like break this codependency. Like we need to like, get to be out in the world instead of like in our home together. And then it was like, nope, can't leave. Gotta figure this out. So this resonates with me for those reasons. But can we talk about navigating relationships in quarantine and specifically like romantic partnered relationships?
What I will say, I understand it's complicated status because my husband and I had some complications going into COVID, and what we've managed to do right now is just kind of go on autopilot. We have kind of strayed away from tackling some issues head on right now, just because the atmosphere is just sensitive itself and there's a lot going on. And, you are now in the atmosphere with your partner 24/7. Yeah, that's a lot. And not having that time to disconnect, not having that time for yourself, hanging out with your girlfriends, getting your nails done, and then not having time away from the kids, it can be a lot. And so you have to really be intentional about a lot of the things that you do on a daily basis, including your relationship. If the relationship is complicated, if you all didn't have good skills on how to communicate about the perpetual problems in the relationship, that's not going to change during COVID. And so I have made the recommendation to a lot of my couples that just hold off. If it's not detrimental, if it's not something that's affecting your health, if it's not harming you, then I'm okay with you just kind of living and coexisting to just get by. And not further complicating your environment and your space by just keep trying to have these conversations for resolution, and it never happens. So again, be intentional about what you're doing in terms of giving yourself some space as best as you can. If you have the option to go into other rooms, to just take a break, watch a TV show, take a shower, then use some of those avenues for space. Like Deidre said, 20 minutes can go a long way. I know we may be used to longer spans of me time if we were getting them, but taking what you can get, even if it's 10 or 15 minutes to yourself, take advantage of that, because that's time that can allow you to reset, especially if you're in a situation where it's complicated. But for those who it's not complicated and things may be going well, you still have the added pressure of being together all the time. But you want to keep it spicy, you want to keep things interesting. And so again, setting your intentions for maybe date nights, putting the kids to bed as early as you can, and just having some alone time. How you choose to use that time is up to you. But again, I am always an advocate of being intentional. Can't just let the time slip away. You have to really kind of command it and choose how you want to use it, or if you don't want to use it at all.
That's really great.
That is. And
Yeah.
I was gonna say, as far as with the love languages, it definitely takes some intention, because so I don't know if you guys have heard of this book. I think it's like Men Have Waffle Brains and Spaghetti. I don't know. But anyways, basically what it says is like men think and most men, not all men, but most men think in waffles, so compartmentalize things, and women think very fluidly most of the time. And so it was just talking about communication and how our communication is a lot different. And so when you think about our communications being different, how we experience and how we give love and receive love might be very different with our spouses or with our partners. And so I think, so my husband and I, like, we've taken the quiz with our kids. We've also taken it together just to, I think we kind of knew what each other's love languages were, but we've done the survey as well, just to kind of talk about it. But our love languages are very different. They really are. And so if we are not using each other's love language, I like to say it's kind of like how I am with my kids that I teach English in China. It's like walking in the room and someone's speaking Chinese and you're speaking English, and it's like, what? Eventually, in order to get by, you got to learn to speak a little bit of Chinese, or they got to learn to speak a little bit of English in order to communicate. I mean, think about it. Like, if you had to go to the bathroom and you're in China and you don't know how to say bathroom, like, you would figure out how to sign language or gestures or something to communicate that. And so sometimes that's what it takes with our partners, with our spouses, is like being intentional, feeling like, pushing yourself, like, this is an emergency situation. Like, we need to connect. We need to connect on each other's level, because a lot of times we want to have the love the way that we want it. And it's hard to think about, okay, well, this person needs, X, Y, Z. But that's why I said a little bit ago about just learning each other's hearts too. Because what are they not saying? What are they saying with their words? But then what is their actions? What are their actions saying? And so for me, COVID has been a little challenging in my own marriage, just because I'm very extrovert and I have extrovert tendencies. And so I like to be around my girlfriends. I like to talk. I like to talk about everything. And my husband's very introverted, and he's like, I don't want to talk to you anymore. I've seen you all day. I don't have nothing else to say to you. And I'm like, but I have a whole bunch to say to you. And he's like, can you call a friend? Phone a friend. And so it's been really challenging, because I'm like, you're not meeting my needs. Like, I have needs, And he's like, but I have needs too, and I need you to be quiet. And so it's been a little bit more spicy in here. And so just learning how to turn down the heat, adding a little bit of sugar in there so that the heat turns down a little bit.
I'm liking this metaphor.
Yes.
So sometimes you just think you have to be intentional with adding that little dollop of sugar, because it's important.
Yeah.
And what that looks like, especially with men, is you have to be willing to give them some validation. Like, your man better than anyone else does. And so what that validation could look like. We know that men tend to be more physical creatures. So, if you've been sitting with your head wrap on for the past 30 days and, you've been sitting in sweatpants, switch it up on them one night. I put on some lipstick today, and I plan to put this lipstick to full use. So, just take a moment to just show him that you appreciate him, even if he hasn't been showing up for you the way that he has. Sometimes trying that method, because everybody lives in this world where we want our needs aren't getting met. We tend to turn away, and then everyone is just kind of in their separate corners.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have to be willing sometimes to break the ice, make dinner, be intentional about the dinner. Don't just let it be something that's for everybody. Make him something special. Say, this is just our night, and see where it goes from there, and see if it's reciprocated. Because sometimes we as women, we do expect to receive, because we're the mothers, we're cooking, we're cleaning, and sometimes we do forget to kind of give that attention to our partners. So that's my advice.
Yeah.
That's good.
I was going to say, well, I'll save that for a question later, but like what's been working for me and Scott is just like turning down the negative valence of some of the things that we say. So, and just being like, this is just feedback. It's not positive or negative, but this is what I need. So I feel like I'm more of the dude in some respects, because I want to be left the fuck alone sometimes. And like, this is my room, this is my office. And he would come in and be like, hey baby, what's up? What's going on? How you doing? What's going on? And be like, get out of my space. Like, I need my space. I need alone time. And I was hurting his feelings. And he, like, we finally got to a place where I was like, how about this? How about when I am in this room and you need to come in, don't say anything to me until I say something to you to let you know that it's like safe to like talk to me, because I'm usually working and stressed out when I'm in this room, and like having someone be like, is super annoying. And what I'll do is when I hear you outside, like waking up, because he wakes up later than I do, because dudes, just to be super gendered, I will greet you and I'll say good morning and have that interaction that you're trying to do when you come in, that I can't deal with because I'm already like in a stress bubble. So like, with that said, how do you create a space for that kind of emotional transparency if you have a partner who isn't as communicative to the point where they're at a Zoom call, like trying to learn how to improve their relationship?
That's good. You got it, Britt? Or?
Yeah, I will. A very basic tool is the old school tool of I statements. It's a way to communicate non-defensively. I think a lot of disagreements, conflicts, arguments, they start because it's such a harsh startup. It's, well, you did this and you did that, and then the response isn't about validation, it's about defending myself, because no, I don't always do this, I don't always do that. And so with I statements, it turns it towards you as a way to articulate your experience of that, of your partner. And so it typically starts with I feel, put in an emotion, I'm angry, I'm disturbed that you don't do this, or that I don't see you do this. And the last part is important, because you don't want to just stick with an accusation. You want to give some sense of redirection. What can you do? What can my partner do to make this better? So I feel X, Y, and Z when you do this thing. And so I would like for you to do this. That statement alone can soften the conversation and allow an opportunity for an exchange. Because when they're on a defense, it's not going to be about validating your particular issue. It's going to be about defending yourself, or defending myself against this accusation. So if you have a need and you want to express that, your experience of your partner, put it on you as your experience. And then in that sentence, with what they can do to help you.
And one of the things that we started doing, I guess last year, we started having a meeting, just my husband and I, every Sunday night. And that's when we go over the meals for the week, the schedule for the week. Like if there's anything, like for tonight, there's a Zoom call, like I need this time. Can you be on? So the meals, the schedule, finances, and then we have our time within that meeting where we also give and receive feedback. And so during that time is when we do our check-ins, like how are you doing? Is there anything that you need? Is there anything that, you know, I could do better? Like, so we have that space. And that's not to say you can only do that on Sunday, but it kind of just creates that space where we have time and we know that we're going to check in with each other on Sunday evening. So that's something that has really helped us out, that a couple suggested to us actually at a couples retreat. And so
that's awesome. Remember when you used to go places? Couples
right?
retreat. What was
I know.
that? So I want to transition into conversations about work and self-worth, and I got a really good question. Casey says, because I'm not working, I feel that I need to prove my worth by keeping busy all the time, plus taking care of the baby. How do I free myself from those types of feelings?
It's up to you.
Okay. Well, I'll kick it off for us, Deidre.
Okay.
What I will say is we have to be more aware of this mindset that staying busy is productive. We have to let go of that. It's not. Resting, self-care, napping, taking a break, those are strategies for productivity as well. And so it's a really big mind shift change that would need to happen in order for you to begin to build that grace and compassion when you're tired and you just say, I can't do anything right now. I need to lay down. I need to take a nap. I need to step away, and know that by doing so, you're also being productive, because what you're doing is you're resetting your battery for you to be able to get back to work and do what you need to do to get back to the child. You can't give when you're empty. There's nothing to give there. So if you're not finding ways to reset yourself, then it's going to be really different to keep pushing forward. So again, just remember that rest is productivity too. And working to really be okay with disconnecting from time to time. That will make you a better partner. That will make you a better mom.
Yes, we live in a society that tells us that busyness is productivity. And that if you want nice things, you got to work hard. And working hard means going out and working and doing, things. But let me tell you, just from experience, most men, if they're given the opportunity to be the full-time mother, to do all of the things, they're like, you can have this back, because it is a full-time job. And so when you know that being the manager of domestic affairs is a job, like, it's a real job. It's real. And it's not easy. And so knowing that, I guess, finding worth and knowing that what you're doing is not an easy task. A lot of parents will send their children to school and to different programs and all of that because they know how hard it is. And so when you've been given a season where you're not working and your child is at home and you're taking care of all of the things, know that it sounds like it's a season, that it's not going to last forever. And so taking advantage of it, because once it's gone, then it's like, man, I should have spent more time enjoying it instead of trying to be all or be something else or do something else. And so I would just say, because most seasons come to an end, and so I say enjoy it while you have it, and the time to like spend with your child and invest in your home and invest in your marriage, because those seasons change. And so it's not easy. It's not easy work with what you're doing, but it's hard work. And for now, you've been given the opportunity. I think seeing it as an opportunity too. So just going at it, I guess, with a different perspective is what I would say.
I like that. I'm actually just starting to finish up some life coaching I started about 10 weeks ago. And one of the practice areas my life coach gave me was, she made me print out permission slips, like literally like print this out.
Yes, I love it.
I, Tomi Akatunde, certified that I am the author of my life. Today, insert date, I give myself permission to, and the one that I'm holding up right now is to focus on completing 5 things on my to-do list and not beat myself up for not adding more. And those 5 things got done. And usually I'm like, oh, that's so little. I have so much to do. I have that. It's like, no, get those 5 things done. And I give myself permission. That's what needed to get done that day, because anything more and I would just shut down and be super anxious and lash out at Scott or myself. So yeah, just giving yourself permission to show up the way that you have the energy to show up, I think is really important.
And Tomi, I want to highlight that cognitive cycle that you mentioned about anxiety and shutting down. That is a very common cognitive cycle, and it reads the relationship between your thoughts and your emotions and your behaviors. And one thing that I tend to notice, if we live in this thought pattern of self-defeating thoughts that don't acknowledge when we do something good, that only takes into account all the things that go wrong, what tends to happen is that you'll feel bad, and that can show up in a number of ways. It's likely to show up with anxiety. sometimes people don't recognize it as anxiety, but that's where you start having avoidance and procrastination because you don't want to address the thing that's causing you distress. And so you have to tune into what you're thinking. How are you thinking about this particular issue? How are you thinking about giving yourself the permission to get this done? And if it's in some way filled with a thought that is self-defeating, pulls away from you feeling confident about it, then you need to stop there, address it, and discard it. Like, just let it go. Because that's going to be a loop that you just keep following through. I think I can't do it. I'm anxious about doing it, so I don't do it.
Yep.
So y'all see my body language? You are killing me softly with these words. So, yes, we know that productivity is like, some capitalist BS to keep us working for someone all the time. But we do tie a lot of worth and value to having a job, and we need jobs for, all the reasons we know why we need one. So with so many people facing unemployment or job insecurity right now, being furloughed, do you have any advice on how to manage the anxiety that comes with job insecurity?
I would go back to what Brittany was saying about the cognitive cycle. A lot of times we tell ourselves different things. We repeat different things in our minds, and that manifests in our actions. What we tell ourselves, we end up doing. And so when we tell ourselves that it's going to be hard to find a job, or finding a job, whatever the negative thought might be, when we do those things, it just it comes out in the way that we respond, in the way that we behave. And so we, like you said, Tommy, like we live in a society that tells us that you have to have a job to be productive, to be successful. But we have to start telling ourselves different things. And so right now, if you've lost a job or you're in between jobs, whatever the situation may be, I would just suggest looking at it as, okay, what is it that I need to learn in this time? What is it that I should do to make myself more marketable? Or what is it that I need to do that I've been wanting to do for a long time and just never had the opportunity to do it? Take this time to do that thing. If you wanted to start a business, start working on your business plan. Start working on doing the research for that business. So take this time, as I know it's hard because we need money, right? We need money to live in this society. We got to pay bills. But if you can take all of that out of it, and I know that's very hard, a heavy task to ask, but if you can take all of that out of it and think about, like, what is it that I can be nurturing in this season, and using this as a season of nurturing, of planting seeds, like I said, starting that new business or whatever hobby it is. Because a lot of times, even when you think about people that have started companies, it was birthed out of a hobby. So what hobby is it that you've been putting to the side for a long time that you need to go ahead and start working on and doing? Because a lot of times it starts with, okay, I was doing this as a hobby, but this mom saw it and they decided that it was cool. So then this mom just saw it. And so it's like so many great things can be birthed out of just taking time to do what we love to do. And I think it was it Madam C.J. Walker? I don't want to misquote it, but there was one of the historical women. She started a business in a pandemic, kind of like COVID, and she was a billionaire. And why can't I think of it? But anyways, so using this time to do what you love to do, and not being afraid to do it. Because a lot of times we get afraid because, like, well, how are the bills going to get paid, and how is this going to get taken care of? But again, not giving into that fear, and those cognitive distortions, and being able to stop, and then reframe or rethink of the way of what you're telling yourself. Like, this is going to get taken care of, so let me work on this. Or I'm going to work on this for a little bit, and then I'm going to do something that I really enjoy doing, or just planting that seed for the future.
Yeah. I realized, like, before all of this started that, like, I haven't had a hobby in such a long time, and like the things that I used to do for pleasure as a kid are now connected to work. So reading and writing, like it's not
It's
fun
right.
like that it was when I was a kid and like, you know, under my blanket at night. So the last thing I remembered loving to do just for myself was crocheting and cross stitch. So I
Mm.
like bought all this stuff at Michael's, and now it's like, all right, now I'm in a pandemic, so I have nothing to do but learn how to crochet.
Yes.
So even things that aren't like necessarily tied to like something that could be turned into a business, like what are things that you are telling yourself you never have the time to do, and make the time to do it, if it's reading, or crocheting or gardening, or you know.
Yes.
And something that you were saying earlier about like using this as a opportunity to upskill in some ways. I know
Mm-hmm.
that LinkedIn is offering some free courses. Universities are offering
Yes.
free certification. So yeah, it's been interesting to see the way that like we're all showing up for each other, and the way that some of the businesses that exist are creating resources for us to use in these very strange, surreal times.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any? Oh, Brittany?
Oh, sorry about that.
Oh, go ahead.
I wanted to speak to the women who may be struggling with finding their hobbies and what they're good at, because I recognize not all of us know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have two ideas. One is I was introduced to this concept. It's a Japanese concept called ikigai, I think that's it. But ikigai. And it's this Japanese concept that just basically puts you through a series of reflective questioning that's designed to help you find the value in your life. And what I like about it is it divides these areas of value, life value, up into four parts. So you have your mission, your passion, your vocation, and your profession. Your mission is just simply, what were you put on this earth to do? And they're reflective questions that help you figure out, well, what does the world need? And what are your talents to be able to give to the world? And then what is your passion? That's simple. You know, what do you love to do? What are those things that give you interest? And then there is your vocation. That is, you know, where can you use your talents to possibly make some money? What are things that you can monetize in terms of skills and talents? And then there's your profession. What do you do your 9 to 5, and how do you make money? Is there an opportunity for you to improve your skill set in that area, to expand, you know, your value in that particular market? So that's a way that you can, or an approach that you can use to kind of help you find what it is that you want to do in terms of your passions and hobbies. And then the second part is just knowing that the job market hasn't slowed down in many industries. In fact, it is picking up. Like, think about Zoom. Like, how many times did you use Zoom prior to March? And did you even know what a Zoom was prior to March? You know, so, you know, think about how certain industries have just taken off, because now here is a need for social connection. Now and here's a need for virtual connection. That's just one example. So know that if you've been laid off, that it's not completely over, that there are many organizations and companies out here right now hiring and bringing in people. And so, like Deetra said, if you need to use this time to brush up on a skill, just do some research. Do a very basic research of what's out in the market right now. Go on Indeed and just see open jobs. And I'm sure you'll find some trends of positions that people are looking for right now. So don't get distressed. Don't think that, you know, there isn't any opportunity for you to find work in a pandemic. You just may have to be a little creative.
Love that. And I put in some links that are specifically mom focused, or women focused, that offer remote jobs. So one's called Power to Fly, and then there's Fairy God Boss, and they rate businesses based on how like good they are to women, and include like is it hospitable to remote work if we get to a place where, you know, some of us are in offices that have half of the staff in office, half out. So there's a resource there. Does anyone have any last questions for Deidre or Brittany before we start wrapping things up? You can raise your hand or leave a comment in the chat.
Hey everybody, I just wanted to say I think this is awesome with all the moms. I'm a therapist myself. Me and my friend Tiffany, we specialize in maternal mental health. So just seeing all you ladies here, and especially women of color, I just think it's wonderful and awesome for moms just to have a safe place to discuss things. That's something that we strive and push with our support groups that we have for moms. So I just think this has been an awesome conversation, just so moms can have that safe place. Because a lot of time as women of color, we're not afforded that space to be able to really say how we feel, and to be able to say, you know, sometimes I don't feel like being a mom today, and that's okay to feel that way and sit with those feelings and understand those feelings. So I just think this was awesome and great, and I just really enjoyed the time being able to hear everybody talk and speak.
Oh man, thank you so much. Where are you based?
We're in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
So yeah.
What's your IG?
Yeah, like put all the information.
Yes. I think I follow y'all.
I think you do, because you look familiar, and I was like,
and I saw your picture too, and I was like, they look familiar.
So yeah, we're
Y'all are gorgeous.
Well, I'm not right now because I just
yes, you are.
I got a dirty hoodie on, but other than that, yes, but thank you. But yeah, our groups are virtual just like this, so I love anything like this. So I was happy to get on here.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. And yes, definitely reach out to me, because I'm always looking for Black women therapists to work and collaborate with on articles and events like this. So I would love to stay in touch.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say, like what she just said, but like, thank you, Tommy, because like you do this so selflessly. Like you do this every Thursday, no matter if there's 2 women or 10 women, like you're doing it, and I just love it because you're providing this space. So I appreciate you for doing this.
Thank you so much. I always make the joke like I'm dehydrated because I've been drinking more wine than water. This is water though. This isn't one of these times. If I could cry, I would. Aniela says, I have 5 children, 4 of them under 5. I have come in a negative cycle, lashing out and negative self-talk. My husband is supporting and loving, but how do I come out of it myself?
First, I think acknowledging that you have 5 children and 4 of them are under 5. Kudos to you even being here.
Yes.
And even being able to listen, because I have 3 and they're not all under 5, and it's much. And so just realizing that it's not an easy task, and that giving yourself grace to do your best, I think is huge. But then also giving yourself the space and the time to come out. So a lot of times people will ask me, when is school over? Are your kids going to be out of school? And I have to be honest and be like, we school year round. And we school year round because I get into these cycles of like, I just can't do this week. And I was telling Brittany this week, like when I'm on my cycle, I cancel school. I cancel for 4 or 5 days. Sometimes I cancel school because I'm like, I can't be the best me. I am irritated. I am frustrated. I don't feel like being mom. I don't feel like being wife. And I know that my cup is empty and it needs to be filled. And so I do what I have to do. Now, if that means, I cancel school, and even when I cancel school, they know they have to do reading and math. I mean, the basics. But if we're just doing the basics while I give myself time to rejuvenate and give myself time to refuel, I think it goes back to that that on the airplane. When you get on the airplane, they always tell you, put on your face mask first, put on your breathing thing first, right? And a lot of times we hear that and we're like, yeah, right, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna put my kids on first. But if you think about it, if you're panicked and in a state where you are not breathing and giving yourself that air, then you can't give your children what they need. You can't give your spouse what he needs. And so giving yourself time is beneficial not only to you, but to your whole family. And so if that means for me, that means sometimes I pull up in my driveway and I sit. And my husband and my kids will be like, I saw you sitting in the driveway. And I'm like, good for you, because I'm staying here. You know, if that means you're sitting in the driveway. And you said your husband is very supportive. And so even telling him, like, sometimes I will tell my husband, like, I can't come in the house yet. I can't come in the house yet. I'm just going to sit. And that's how sometimes I find my peace. Or, you know, right now it's social distancing, but I would go to a friend's house and sit in her backyard with her and drink a glass of wine. But not being, I have learned that when I don't accept help from my husband, it's me being prideful. And sometimes it's because I want him to do it the way that I want him to do it. But learning that, like, if that means that he's got to get the iPad out and he's letting his mom babysit the kids, and that's how he does it, then let him do it how he does it, so that I can pull myself out of that space. And again, Brittany talked about just the cognitive cycles that we get into. And so in order to get out of that negative cycle, you first have to give yourself space. You have to give yourself that space and permission to do that. And so, like I said, creating that space in whatever way that you can. My son was very challenging at one point in our home education. And I found myself going for walks. I would tell my husband, I got to go take a walk. I need some space. I need to take a walk. And I would go and come back, and he would still be where he was at, and I would still be where I was at. And I go back out, I need to take another walk. And my neighbors would be like, you walking again? Yes, I am. I mean, in some days I had to do that, but giving yourself those opportunities to do that and the grace to do that, because that's when you can be a better you for your family.
Yeah. I kind of want to do something a little bit differently than what we usually do. I think Aniela, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, but this really spoke to me because I have a cycle of negative self-talk, and something that's been helpful for me is writing those negative thoughts down and coming up with a new way to those words to move me forward instead of holding me back, and also to add facts to counter that. So I think this would be like a great exercise for everybody. You can type it if you're unavailable to say it out loud, but if we can offer like affirmations or mantras or words of encouragement for Aniela and other moms who feel similarly or who are in similar headspaces, if everyone can go around and share that.
Tommy, you want us to share which
yeah, like a mantra,
or affirmation, or
an affirmation, or something to counter those negative thoughts, so that like whenever Aniela or a mom in a similar headspace gets there, she can like call on these words to pull her forward.
I'll go.
Yeah.
My kids are loved, and because they're loved, I'm a good mom.
I love that. That's beautiful.
One I constantly tell myself is, my kids are smiling, they're happy, and they're taken care of, and so the day is great.
That's great. Casey offered, I am more than enough.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi guys. Yeah, I'm not looking so great today either. I'm like having weird hot flashes, but mine is similar to Casey's. It is one of my fellow therapists has it in her room, and it just says, you are enough, you have enough, you do enough.
That's good.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
I had one recently somebody shared that I loved, and it said, they said, your kids don't perfect mom. They need you to be their mom.
That's great. Anyone else? Oh, that's great. You are more strong and wise than you give yourself credit for. And my mantra is that I am a worthy, courageous, powerful woman. And I say that to myself whenever I feel not that at all, just to remind myself that I am that. um, and also that you are enough. You are exactly the mother that your children need you to be. And yeah, that you know, there's so much good around you and that good outweighs the bad. So those are my offers. Everybody, thank you so much
I'm
for,
sorry, Tommy, real
yeah,
quick. I think, and is it Aniela? Aniela?
I'm not
Is that
sure.
okay? I think she said, "How do I break those patterns?" In her children have taken over the same behavior. So I was just gonna say,
Oh,
even
thank you for catching it.
I was gonna say, even doing this with your children, my children, I've given them. We've come up with affirmations for them of their own, and so sometimes when my son gets into a space of negative self-talk, we will pull out his affirmation. They both have them hanging on their walls. When they were going to different activities, we would say in the car ride on the way there. So just different times of speaking those same life. I say speaking life over yourself instead of speaking that I'm angry, instead of saying that I'm angry, saying I can find happiness, I can find joy because of X, Y, and Z. And so also allowing your children to do the same activity would probably be helpful with the breaking that negative cycle.
Yeah. And something that's come up quite a few times in these events and like articles I've done is just modeling the behavior that you want for your kids to do. They're picking up cues and they're sponges. And if you can model what expressing your feelings looks like in a healthy and holistic way, they'll pick up on that and start doing that as well. But yeah, it all starts with you and centering yourself. And I hope that those words that we all shared with you will be helpful.
There's power in your thoughts.
Yes,
And
and
just
your words.
have the ability to think negatively. You have the ability to think positively. You can change that. You don't have to sit there.
Yeah, it's a choice.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel like it sometimes, but it's a choice. And then Whit offered also making it a habit to correct yourself when you speak negatively of yourself aloud to others. So yeah, that like cognitive shift to like say it like, oh, nope, not true, not true. A therapist I was seeing recommended like anytime I'm in a negative self-talk loop, I say refute that feeling with facts. Conscious interruption, as Malia said. So like a regular thing I say when I'm in a bad way is that I'm stupid or dumb. And then I'll be like, oh, nope. This bitch went to the University of Chicago. This bitch like has a master's in journalism.
Right. And is doing it.
You're not stupid. Like,
not at all.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for being here. Deetra, Brittany, thank you so much for offering your insight and wisdom for all of us here. Can you guys share where people can find you on the internet?
Of course.
Yeah, thank you, Tommy, for having us. I really appreciate it. It's been an amazing time. I enjoy connecting with other women. And so thank you for providing the space.
Yes. I'm happy you're on it, girl. You have I love what Deetra said about you being the Angie's List of Black moms. Like that couldn't have been any more fitting for you. So, thank you for doing the work. Thank you for cultivating the spaces. Whatever you need, you have your community of moms and supporters of moms there for you.
And so I wrote it in the comments, but I'm at The Teaching Wife on social.
And Brittany's Grounded Hues.
Grounded Hues.
And for being in this chat, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, ladies.
Homie,
thank you, ladies, for sharing.
Yeah, for being vulnerable, for
Yes.
the space to be here, for sharing yourselves. I really appreciate it. I'm at Matermea, Matermea, and like Deidre said, I do this. Let me not lie to you, not every Thursday. There's been a few Thursdays missed here and there, but like most Thursdays.
Most
care,
Thursdays
you know,
I'm
taking a break
with you guys. And next week we are going to be joined with Casey, who's on the call right now, and a new mom therapist, just to talk about, you know, give an opportunity for new moms to connect and talk about this new space that they're in. And that I'm opening that to however that phrase means to you. Someone once told me that no matter how many kids you have, you're like always a new mom. So like if you have a second person, the first time you're a new mom of two. So just creating space and community to connect with other new moms, to talk about that. And Casey's a new mom. She'll be on hand to give like real life insight onto what that's like. And then I have someone, I'm waiting for her to say yes, but I have a new mom therapist that I would love to join the call to talk about those unique feelings that come up during that time. And then if you guys have any ideas for like what we should do in June, definitely hit me up. I'm at tomi@modernmia.com. But yeah, thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you, Tomi.
I feel so
Thank you for
full.
having me.
And
thank you.
Kristen, I'm gonna message you. Answer some of those questions. But yeah, thank you guys so much and have a good night.
Good night.
Bye guys.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you.